Welcome into the latest edition of ESPN FC. I'm Dan Thomas, joined in the studio today by Craig Burley and Shaka here. So we'll kick things off at Molineux, which was to host England against Italy in the Nations League. It finished England 0, Italy 0. Not a lot really. The second half in particular was a hard watch, and in the end the spoils shared in England. For more on this, let's welcome in, shall we, Nedum Onuoha to the show. Nedum, so many talking points from this game. Which one do you want to start with?
I think the first one's the XG debate. You know, England had 1.8, Italy had 1.3, so technically, they deserve to win.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's the right way to start it. But ultimately, you know, it didn't quite have the fireworks of the game they played in last year in the European Championship final. But this is what it's weird. Like, you see the difference in the sides, the people who are being rested, people who aren't there. You know, an Italy side now who, you know, the Nations League is a big thing for this year because they don't have a World Cup. You're in a stadium with no fans in it, but it was good to see Tomori play. Thought Abraham did okay as well. And as Craig was saying, you know, Sterling, that's the biggest chance, that's the best chance, and he does ghost into those areas. I think he'll be disappointed to have not scored the winner there. But I guess, you know, we're trapped in this funny position where with the Nations League, where lots of people think it doesn't matter. But as you now look at England and they've only scored one goal in the last 3 games in the competition, like, does this actually matter? And in some ways, I believe it probably does, because there's a sort of sense of lack of creativity to a certain extent. And if it's going to be like this and they do end up finishing bottom, I think at the end of the broadcast which I had over here in England, they said, you know, next season they'll be in Group B and they won't be able to qualify for the finals in the summer, blah, blah, blah. But I thought, as well as that, you won't be playing Germany, you won't be playing Italy and teams like that in this competition. So for them, they need to kickstart their campaign. Otherwise, it could be all doom and gloom next year.
Doom and gloom. What a lovely link.
Yeah, it's a lovely segue, because that's how I'm feeling today, watching that dross. I mean, I'm at my wit's end with this Nations League already. We've had 2 years of a pandemic that's not over fully, but certainly sport has been able to resume full programming. But that's been condensed for 2 years. We've had these long and arduous seasons, little breaks, and now we have UEFA banning supporters from an England game, ironically, when they have an organisation and a big event, they can't monitor properly in the Champions League final. And then we have those other clowns at FIFA have got a World Cup bang in the middle of a season, and we still have all these games. And look, at the end of the day, the Nations League is what it is. It's an upgrade on the friendlies, but the friendlies were dead. The friendlies were dead in the water.
Yep.
These are only slightly better. And what they are, they're not for the Englands and the Italies, really, who generally, apart from Italy, have a couple of hiccups. All these big countries generally get to the major championships. They're for those teams like the Scotlands and the Wales and all these other teams that need a parachute because they're so bad. Need a parachute to get in there. So yeah, disappointing when you switch on and there's just a few screaming kids at the game. Good for them, but it doesn't make for an atmosphere. And once again, England under-inspire me.
Yeah.
You know, Italy have made a lot of changes, a lot of inexperienced players. Yeah, I know England made some changes, but it's still a side that should, you know, against this Italy side, be playing a little bit better football, creating more chances. We didn't see it in the highlight. I thought Italy had 2 or 3 other very good chances in the game and could have won it.
This was a very young Italy side. Mancini, of course, looking to kind of revolutionise teams at the national level. But you go back to England, Shaq, and as Craig says, it is uninspiring. It surely is a concern. I know you can say whatever you like about the Nations League, but how many times have we really been put on the edge of our seat by England? Not just in this tournament, but over the last year.
And that's the thing I'm thinking about. While you could level out criticism of today's game, you could go back a number of tournaments and say exactly the same. And this is an England team that lost in the final, got to a semi-final, yet have been equally uninspiring in both those tournaments. That's who England are. They sit back, they defend, they don't give a lot, and they hope to take opportunities with players in form like Harry Kane, and in the Euros it was Raheem Sterling early on. That's just who England are, and given the season that English football is just coming out of, the one that they're going into, and as Craig mentioned, with the World Cup smack dab in the middle of it, it becomes a bit of a balancing act for Gareth Southgate in terms of squad selection. But squad selection aside, you know how England are going to play, and then that's what you saw again.
But that's how England are, but that's not how England should be.
Right, that's the key, isn't it?
No, I'm not.
That's who they. I think that's who they're going to be.
I'm not really.
Under Gareth Southgate.
I'm not running the analysis over a couple of friendlies, Nations League, whatever it is at the end of the season. As a generalisation, and look, people will say World Cup semi-final, European Championship final. I get that, but England didn't win, and pragmatism only gets so far when you have success, and then people start to say, well, hold on, some of these other nations, Germany, Spain, French are strong, but a lot of these other ones are not at the strongest. They're also rebuilding. England have this. I mean, they have one or two Achilles heels in the side, but generally, left backs an issue. Look at all the right backs. John Stones had a pretty good season at centre back. Maguire's played well for England. There are other centre backs. Pickford's been pretty solid. Then you go forward. Henderson, Calvin Phillips, Declan Rice, £100 million footballer, potentially plus. And then you've got Sterling and Foden and Grealish and all these guys, Harry Kane. Should we not be expecting England to be a bit more inventive?
Yeah. At the same time, though, Craig, you're saying it hasn't brought success, but it's brought more success than England have realised for 56 years.
Maybe that's more about the other nations, and maybe that's more about the pathway in groups.
Whichever way, it's more success than they've had for 56 years. And you could talk about the players like Declan Rice and Mount and Grealish, but in generations gone by, you could talk about Gerrard and Lampard and Rio Ferdinand. And England have always been able to boast these incredible names, yet it's only in the last couple of tournaments that they've been able to boast getting to a semi-final or a final.
You look at it and you just think there is so much quality within this England squad, and as Craig said, you kind of expect that little bit of spark, Nathan, that little bit of entertainment that's been lacking so many times when we see them.
Yeah, you do think that, and to be honest, a lot of it comes down to the individuals. I thought at times today Grealish looked good. We've seen times gone by where Saka's looked good, where Sterling's looked good, but it is that sort of individual magic as opposed to just being a very sort of front foot attacking type team. But then maybe that's just within English football's DNA, because as I look back, I don't picture tons of times when they've been extra expressive, scoring tons and tons of goals all the time. It's just basically what they are. And the one thing I'd say in terms of the game today and the setup, I think if England maybe had a left-sided left back, like maybe if Chilwell was playing, if we've got Chilwell and Reece James playing fullbacks, that's more attacking to me. But I think the key bit, really, in my opinion, is the way that they play with the central midfielders. Because for as good as Rice is, for as good as Phillips is and alike, I think they're more ball winners than ball players, and they are very good players. But when I looked at the game last time against Germany, you're looking at Kimmich in there and Gundogan, like they might not be as good at winning the ball, but they're fantastic at moving, passing and moving, keeping the game ticking over and really starting some of those attacks. So it seems like maybe they're a bit short from that creativity element there. But with the bodies we've mentioned about Foden and alike, maybe they can find something. But then ultimately, is that what the coach wants? Because historically, that's not who England have been.
Grealish drives me nuts. Sorry. Just thought I'd say that. It drives me nuts. Just drives me nuts.
Why?
Well, I don't get enough. I just never ever see enough end product. I mean, every time he goes on a run with the ball, I might as well go in the kitchen and put the kettle on, make a cup of tea, come back and see that he shot wide or his cross has hit somebody. I mean, when he came on in Germany, played an absolutely brilliant ball with his left foot to the back post that Harry Kane, I think it was, should have scored. So he's capable. But he's going to have to do it more for club and country.
Right.
I have no interest in watching somebody. I played with people that beat 20 people, 10 players, and then there was nothing at the end of it. I've no interest. And a couple of thousand punters getting off their seats going, brilliant! What's brilliant? What's brilliant? You run 70 yards and then gave it away, but you beat 8 people. So I just think, and I don't think I've been too harsh, he frustrates me. It's almost as if he feels, and I might be wrong, that these things he's doing is enough. It's not. It's not. He's much better than that. And he needs to get consistent end product. And we don't have that. I see the dribbles, I see the strength on the ball, I see the accelerating away from players and taking it for a run, but I only see occasionally something sparkling at the end.
Right.
And that drives me absolutely nuts for somebody with that talent.
Now, Gareth Bale was asked about the Nations League ahead of that clash against Belgium, and he said there will be consequences in the long term. People's bodies can't deal with that kind of calendar year after year. Something has to change. The people at the top of the game have to do something, but unfortunately, money comes into it. It's a business at the end of the day, but for player welfare, the money needs to be overlooked. What do you reckon then, Nathan?
I don't disagree with anything that he said, and you could almost insert any player's name or face into that section and they'd be saying the exact same thing. I think the only issue is the fact that, it almost seems ironic that Gareth Bale's saying it, because I think this season he's played more games for Wales than he did for Real Madrid, and that was, I think that was 7, so he will be heard, he will be listened to, and I hope that governing bodies do take it more seriously. But as he said there, it's run by money. That's not going to change. They're not going to decide one year, well, let's just give them a break and we'll lose out on some money and everything will be fine. I think he makes a very, very valid point. But like I say, when you look at those stats for the season, this is coming off the back of winning a league and a Champions League. Yeah, his stock isn't necessarily the highest that it has been. But like I say, what he said is very, very true. And I think it does matter. And I think that in some ways, we've got this sort of ill feeling about the Nations League. But I think some of that comes given the fact that it's in the middle of June. If this was happening in September, October, November time, like it traditionally would be doing, then fair enough. But I think he makes a good point. I don't know how it's going to reset. And I'm really interested to see how the season's going to pan out once this World Cup's over. Because again, you're going to have to get your mind around to a new situation which we haven't experienced before.
The one thing that gets me is, and I agree with Nadim, I have no issue with the statement, because we all know it to be true that they'll just keep pounding these players. However, I'm seeing a lot of players towards the end of their career talking about too many games and it's all about money. Well, how's about some of the guys in the height of their career sit down and bang a few heads together with UEFA and FIFA and all these governing bodies in the leagues and the broadcasters and say, yeah, we want less games to look after ourselves, but we're prepared to take less money. Because ultimately, everybody wants a piece of the pie. So the broadcasters want more games, because more games means more advertisement, means more money. That filters all the way down. It's a pyramid system, but I don't see any players, and certainly not publicly, who would be prepared to take a much lower salary to play less games. It seems to me that they all want the money, which is fine. But if you want the money, at the moment, you're going to have to play the games. There's not much give and take.
For me, listen, I think, again, the Nations League is a step up from friendlies. And then while you could point to those games and say it's about money, that's no different from how friendlies were. Friendlies were structured exactly the same and was just dependent on who would come up with the most for this international window, and teams go and play there. So again, money dictated that. There's just a different structure to it this time around. So I don't necessarily get why it's about money. If it's too many games, and rightly so, people have been saying that for the last 30 or 40 years, then deal with the number of games, both domestically and that you play for international football. But to link it to money, when everything about football is about money, I just don't think that's the selling point that's going to get traction.
Just a reminder, plenty of content over on our YouTube channel. If you haven't done so yet, be sure to go over to ESPN FC and subscribe. We've discussed this a lot, haven't we, over recent days, but on Saturday it was confirmed. Aurelien Tchouameni is a Real Madrid player, thought to be up to 100 million euros plus bonuses, the amount that Real Madrid have paid for the 22-year-old midfielder. And you feel that Real Madrid very much have an eye on the future, isn't it? We've been so used to that Casemiro, Cruz, Modric midfield, trying to transition that over the next few seasons. What it could look like now, of course, with Camavinga, Tchouameni and Valverde in that midfield. Ruder, of course, Rudiger, of course, joining the club as well from Chelsea. It looks good business, Craig. We discussed this.
Would have looked even better if that guy, what's his name, Mbappe.
I know, imagine that.
Yeah, the guy with the
But then obviously that's because then they wouldn't have the money to buy Tchouameni.
Yeah, well, they would have found it.
Oh, there it is down here.
Florentino would have found it. Wash, there we go. Wash, there you go.
It seems to be a good strategy from Real Madrid.
It's the only strategy. I mean, to be honest with you, well, it's not the only strategy. You can go and bring a few more golden oldies in. But, throw it there. It's the excitement of this Nations League today. Just getting to me. I need anybody get water. There's Tchouameni, big, strong, talented. Camavinga, the same, getting game time. You know, I think most of us are fans of Valverde.
Yes.
Can pretty much play anyway. He can play a bit full back, play wide, play middle, play off the front. As long as you can keep getting the best out of Vinicius, as long as it's not, this has not been a one season for him and then it's back to the inconsistency.
Yeah.
I think that's the important side of it. But from a midfield perspective, on paper, and it never always works this way. I mean, Kroos, Modric and Casemiro, it's not exactly the easiest three ball to replace. It's high standards. And it's not easy going to that kind of club and that kind of pressure. But I get the feeling, particularly with the two French lads, they look really, and I think Julian's touching this, really, really confident and mature young guys who can handle the pressure of playing for Real Madrid. So, yeah, on the face of it, looks great business.
And the way Carlo Ancelotti has used Camavinga throughout his first season, obviously making a big impact in some of those huge Champions League games. You imagine him to mirror that sort of way now? Which
I think it's outstanding. Listen, the one, I guess, criticism, if you want to call it that, is 100 million is money you'd pay for a player who you'd expect to come in and start and make an impact. But given the service you've had out of Real Madrid's regular midfield three, that's money very well spent. And I think the addition of Camavinga last year and Tchouameni coming in this time around, it's planning for the future in a way that I think Real Madrid needed to do and can afford to do, given their successes and money that they have in their coffers.
Craig's just been brought some water. Look at that.
Have you got that power?
No,
I wasn't brought the water.
It would have been brilliant if you just went full all over your face.
I went magic.
There it is. Meanwhile,
it's very good water.
Richarlison apparently is a target for Spurs. Of course, the Everton player, a key part in the end of them staying up last season. 11 goals in 33 games. There's talk of 60 million euros for a move from Everton to Spurs. Nadim, if you're at Tottenham, how hard would you push this to get it over the line?
I think he's a good player, but for me, I think I prefer Kulusevski. I think I prefer that Kulusevski, Son, Kane partnership, and I think Lucas Moura as well is probably a little bit ahead of him. So I'm not sure. I think maybe they want depth, but then that's a lot of money for depth. And yeah, I think as well for his style of player, like he feels more off the cuff than as structured as say some of the players that like a Conte signing would be. So clearly they've seen something within him, but I never really had him down as a Spurs type of player, especially under his current manager. But like I say, I keep saying he's a good player, but I just don't see him in a Spurs shirt at this moment in time. But I'm more than happy to be proven wrong. Yeah,
it's kind of a surprise one, this one. Like, if you're Spurs, is this really your priority?
I think the priority is at the back, to be quite honest with you. But in some sense, he hasn't got the structured play of Conte, of a Conte style, but in another sense, he has other attributes, like he fights, and I mean, he's obviously a skillful player. But whenever you see him playing for Everton, whether you like him or not, or whether you think he goes to ground often or not, blah, 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 he puts himself about. I just can't make my mind up about this guy, because I just don't know if it's a good or bad move, and I think a lot of that might be down to the fact where he's been playing the last 3-4 years.
Yeah.
Everton's been such a car crash that it's not the easiest team to play in, and maybe we're not, for those reasons, seeing the best of them. It just seems like a lot of money for me, for a guy who's not going to come in and be, you wouldn't sign Richarlison and say, oh, he'll be in the Tottenham team straight away. So I'm unsure whether this deal could be done to me.
Yeah, I'm not at all sure about Richarlison either. I'm unconvinced by the prospect of this move. He's been good for Brazil. Pretty good for Brazil, and as much as he scored, I think 6 goals in the last 2 months for Everton to keep them up, a lot of those goals I find were a little bit scrappy and unconvincing. They were needed, but unconvincing. So I don't see Richarlison getting into Spurs' starting 11. So from a player perspective, wait to see what's happening at Everton, because at least you know there you're going to be starting, and I'm not at all sure that he features in Conte's starting 11 if everybody's fit. Maybe you get some games in one of the cups or something of the sort, but I don't see an awful lot more than that if everybody stays fit. And at that price, that's a lot of money for a squad player.
Unless they think they're losing Son.
I don't think so.
Nah, Son ain't going anywhere.
Get that water back.
Hold on, the guys. I know. Those people got very upset about the fact he wasn't in those team of the years, and he was fantastic. I mean, he's maybe some of his performances weren't his usual gold standard.
No, I don't think anyone's denying that he's not good.
No,
it's just the fact that there's been no speculation, no link.
Because there's no speculation behind the scenes, there's not people interested in Heung-min Son. Is that what you're saying?
Well, because
it's not been on the ESPN FC website.
He's got handshakes for everybody in his Spurs. If he goes somewhere else, he'll have to learn a whole new set of handshakes.
Why would Spurs let him go?
Well, why would? It's like, why would they let Harry Kane go if the money had been right, which it wasn't at the time? They probably had to sell him. Of course, they don't want to let him go, but he's opening eyes with his goals return, the same as Mo Salah is opening eyes with his goals return. So there has to be people interested in him.
I'm not denying that at all. I think a lot of big clubs would be interested in Spurs. I just think Son is happy where he is.
There we go. What about Bernardo Silva? Is he happy where he is, of course?
He's even reading tea leaves, or what?
Just because you can make water up there.
He has been linked to a move to Barcelona once again, as he was, of course, 12 months ago. He said, unfortunately, I can't say anything. I'm focused on the national team. When the season ends, we will see what happens. Nathan, what do you make, first off, of that quote?
It doesn't surprise me, to be honest, because a year ago there was sort of a few rumours going around saying that maybe he was going to leave then as well. And I think for as good as he has been this year for City, especially making the Premier League team of the season, it doesn't necessarily guarantee that somebody wants to stay. Like, I think he respects the manager in Pep Guardiola, but I don't know if he loves him. You don't really see that much between the two of them, so I think it's fair. And as well, as a player, you can think about it from the perspective of, Man City, they're this great, all-conquering, whatever we want to say. But other people have other ambitions. They want to experience different things, maybe want to go somewhere warmer, live in a different city, that type of stuff. But it'd be a shame if he did leave, because he's been such an integral part of City's success. And I think this year, really showed that after having somewhat of a down year the year before, to then come back and be one of City's top 2-3 players for the whole season was spectacular. And I guess in some ways that's given him the right to sort of say, well, this is my destiny now, and I can take things into my own hands. So it's a very conscious sort of quote from him there, because he could have just said, no, everything's fine, everything's good, because he's under contract. But for him, I guess he's just trying to keep City on their toes, and maybe a little thing for Barcelona as well.
That rain in Manchester grinds you down a bit.
There is a lot of rain in Manchester.
There is a lot of rain in the UK, but there is particularly a lot of rain in Manchester. And the battered sausage and the fish and chips eventually will. But it did look like he was leaving a year or so ago. I slightly get frustrated in the sense that, if I'm playing for a really good team with top players, and I'm one of the top players again in that team, I don't necessarily have to have the best relationship with my manager. Right. As long as I'm playing and it's not a personal vendetta that he's got against me, then it's not a problem. But as Nedham said, the other side of the coin is some players get itchy feet quickly and some don't. And maybe he just fancies something a bit different city, different lifestyle, family. There's lots of things come into it. It just seems a little strange that it's off the back of one of his best seasons, when he's throwing this non-denial out there, rather than 18 months ago when he wasn't having a particularly good time.
Shaka, can you just take through the finances how Barca can make this happen?
Listen, I've got Tebas on the phone. Ask him.
I don't know, Dan. Is it sure that answers that question?
He's not. Tebas hasn't said anything about this yet.
Give it 24 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
They can't make this happen.
Craig makes a good point. Why would you want to leave City?
I don't know. Listen, I don't know what's happening behind the scenes. Can't speculate on that. But especially now with the signing of Erling Haaland and the promise that brings. The one trophy that City are still missing, the Champions League. And you feel that this is a team that are as well equipped as they ever have been to win it this time around. And even if that means putting off this move to Barcelona, if it means enduring the rain and the passage sausage and chips in Manchester for one more season.
They're good, Shane.
They are good. You should try them.
What was your go-to fish and chips, Shane?
Fish and chips?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Mushy peas?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit of curry sauce inside.
Oh, what we got to about Erling Haaland? He put some pictures up of when he was younger in a Manchester City. Look at that. Isn't that awesome? Of course, he's yet to be made official. That's fantastic. Of course, Haaland set to sign for Manchester City. Meanwhile, as we've discussed at some length, haven't we, over the last few days, Darwin Nunez, of course, could be going to Liverpool. You take a look at Haaland and his potential, Nadem. How concerned is it from a City perspective if Liverpool were to get someone like Nunez?
A concern. Like, Liverpool are a very, very good side. I think the bigger thing for me, for as good as Nunez is right now, it seems like he's more of a project. And I think the bigger deal is if Mane's leaving or if there's talk that other players are leaving as well, because I think this summer, they can have to make a decision on Firmino as well, who's been an iconic player for them. So I think Nunez is good, but I don't think he's going to be as impactful straight away as, say, like a Mane was. You can see his attributes. He's got good hold-up play. He's been a really good finisher this season. He's just a bit raw with certain things. Some of his creativity perhaps isn't as good as, say, the people who are currently in position at Liverpool. So I think they're playing the long game with him, because I'd be surprised to see him playing week in, week out next season, even if he does sign. But in terms of fear, it's good if Liverpool get better, City get better. In theory, all teams should get better by bringing players in. So in some ways, that makes for a better Premier League, and hopefully it's more competitive, and it's more than just two teams running away with it this season.
It's going to be a busy summer, isn't it? To keep up to date with everything that's going on. Senor Tebas looks at it every single day. Check out Transfer Talk over on the ESPN website. CONCACAF Nations League action last night as the US men's national team in action against Grenada. It would take 43 minutes for Greg Berhalter's side to make the deadlock. Jesus Ferreira making it 1-0.
Grenadian defence not covering themselves in an awful lot of glory. Have numbers back, but just can't seem to clear it. This is Ferreira, nice little finish.
9 minutes into the second half, Ferreira makes it 2. Areola with a nice ball through.
Nice ball, but not the best defending from the 170th ranked team in FIFA. Straight through the middle, could have driven a bus down there.
And then moments later, Ken Lacosta plays it into Ferreira. Nice finish, 3-0.
Really nice finish, under no pressure at all, top of the box, but still asking a lot of himself. Top corner.
That's his hat-trick. Then into the 62nd minute we go. And Areola makes it 4-0.
Brilliant.
And then Ferreira gets his 4th of the game. Aronson playing it in.
Really nice run, nice presence of mind by Aronson. Tap in for Ferreira for number 4.
So it finishes the US 5, Grenada 0. The US then sitting 1 point behind El Salvador, who have played 1 game more. The big talking point, without a doubt, Jesus Ferreira, and this is what Greg Berhalter had to say about the striker after the game.
I think that any time a player's under pressure, you look for how they respond. And that's the important thing. And no matter what the level of the opponent is, the player still has to perform. And Jesus, I sense he was under pressure. I talked to him this afternoon, and I told him that we don't judge him just based on goals. And I've said that to you all along. He does a lot of other stuff that really helps this group be successful. And so I just said, go out there and relax and play your game. And he had 4 goals, and it's great for him. I'm happy for him, and that those goals matter, and the finishes that he had were excellent. And that's against any opponent, you look for the quality of the strikes and where he's putting the ball, the placement of the ball, and he had some good goals today.
Lately I've been having a mental toughness and trying to work on my mind. Knowing that I haven't been performing at the level that I'm supposed to. But, I have a group of people around me that support me and let me know what I bring to the team. And so, I'm trying to focus more on having a good game, making sure that my first touch is good, helping my teammates in any way I can. and that the goals will come. And today it showed that I focused more on the touches and the runs than just scoring goals, and we saw the result there.
Casey Keller joins us now. Without a doubt, the number 9 is the big talking point, isn't it, going into the World Cup from a US perspective, Casey? How much has last night's performance from Jesus Ferreira help him cement a place in this team?
Well, it definitely doesn't hurt, but I mean, I think Craig obviously just made the point. This was against the 170th ranked team in the world, so you have to take everything that kind of happened last night with a little bit of a grain of salt. But at the same time, when Greg said you still have to perform, I think one of the question marks, and it was brought up in the broadcast, was how many chances Jesus Ferreira missed before he got the first one, and then that kind of opened the door and maybe relieved some of that pressure. I mean, you know that against the opposition that you're going to play against in a World Cup, you're not going to have 8 to 10 chances to score 4 goals. You're going to have 1 to 2 chances maximum, and you have to be extremely efficient with those opportunities. So that will be one of the big questions going forward for that number 9 position, not just with Jesus Ferreira, but just how effective you can be against a much better opposition. And so give Ferreira a ton of credit. I love his response in the second half to missing a bunch of chances in the first to get those 4 goals. But there's not going to be a whole lot judged from that performance.
Aside from Ferreira, what else was a takeaway of yours from last night's game, Casey?
Well, I think you're playing against an opposition that you're going to dominate. You're going to have the majority of possession. You also know that you're mixing your lineups around, and some players are getting opportunities that they're going to be very few and far between. There's no real camp before the World Cup. There's only going to be a 2-game window in September, so every chance you get, you have to take advantage of it. When you look at someone like a Cameron Carter-Vickers, for example, who just secured his full-time move to Celtic after, season after season being loaned out from Tottenham to different clubs, I look at a player like Cameron Carter-Vickers, in particularly because of who is in the U.S.'s squad. You're playing against England. You're playing against Wales. A couple British teams where Cameron Carter-Vickers grew up. He played against a lot of these teams that these players were playing from. He's now going to be playing also in a league that is used to that kind of physicality. Look, if you were playing against South American opposition or where it's a different style of game, maybe that doesn't suit Cameron Carter-Vickers as much as it does having to potentially going up against England or Wales. So I thought that defensive unit with him in there last match did exactly what they were supposed to do. Make things very, very simple, knowing that you were playing against an inferior opposition and you never gave them an opportunity. And so, that was a step forward. Also, again, understanding who your opposition was against.
Finally, Casey, obviously, as we learned, Cameron Carter-Vickers is going to Celtic. Meanwhile, Tyler Adams' future is still very much up in the air at the moment, links to Sevilla in some reports. What would you suggest would be his best move to make?
I think that's the tricky part. There was also a lot of talk about Leeds. Does Jesse Marsch want to sign 2 Americans as his first 2 signings? And what kind of pressure does it put on those 2 guys? He's obviously, the good part about it is he's at a very good club. He's at a club that's a Champions League team, a team that is shown that they can compete not only in the Bundesliga but in European competitions. So I think the most important thing for Tyler, and a player in myself who loved the new challenge of going to a different country and a new club, I understand why, the appeal is there to maybe move somewhere else and see, what else is out there. But I think it's really important that he goes someplace that fits perfectly for him, not just for a paycheck, not just for, maybe the dream of being at one of these monster clubs. I think the key, though, is make sure you're somewhere where there's a significant investment that you're going to be playing week in and week out, and make sure that his representative and himself understand that has to be paramount.
Casey, as always, thank you very much. Just a reminder, ESPN FC with you 7 days a week here on ESPN+. Stevie back in the studio with Shaka tomorrow, plus Luis Garcia joining us. It was the first leg of the Segunda playoffs for a place in La Liga at stake. It finished Girona 0, Tenerife 0. Girona having plenty of chances, but not being able to convert them. Tenerife, then, you would suggest, with the advantage going into the second leg, with, of course, that being played at home. Extra time's next, everybody. Welcome into the latest edition of Extra Time. Thank you for your tweets. Shaka and Craig are with us here in the studio. Nadim Anua joins us as well. And thank you to everyone who's reached out over the last 24 hours trying to tell us the difference between Wesley Snipes and Wesley Sneijder. In case you missed yesterday's Extra Time, Wesley Sneijder was quoted saying that he could be at Messi and Ronaldo's level if he just trained harder. Stevie, for some reason, thought that Wesley Snipes said this. So
there was a giveaway as well. There was a couple of giveaways that he never quite picked up on, just for a change. One was the actual wording of the tweet.
Yes,
It said Wesley Sneijder.
Yeah, that's...
And the other one was the heads up that the producer gave him 30 seconds before we came on to do the segment, and he said there's a question about Wesley Sneijder.
Ian Dark in the corner as well. It's like, is this really happening? Like, what have I walked into here? So the first question is...
Oh, I thought you were talking about Wesley Snipes.
Nadim, who would have had a better career? Wesley Sneijder as an actor or Wesley Snipes as a footballer?
Ooh.
That's a good question. I think I'm going to say Wesley Snipes as a footballer.
Wow.
Because he's looking after himself. He's nearly 69, he's doing well. I think with Sneijder, I think there's the clues in what he said about he could have been at that level if he trained harder. Like, did somebody stop him from training harder? So maybe that would translate into his acting, so I'll go that way.
But surely if Frank can be an actor, anyone can be.
He's not an actor. Whenever Frank plays a part, it's usually the part of a corpse. Right? So just lift it
Stevie
up.
said that to him once, it didn't go down very well.
And he does two things: plays a corpse well, and he does silent movies.
Yep, that's it.
So he doesn't get to talk, which is a big
Frank
problem.
can play in a silent movie. Not imagine it. Right, Frank is a non-speaking part.
You have to put a muzzle on him.
Shaq?
What? I don't get to speak. But
Snipes is a good actor.
Yeah?
So I go with
what was his best film?
New Jack City.
What was the one he was on a plane? Blade. Should have looked it up last night after the show, but I was way late.
Nadim, who's likely to score more goals next season between Darwin Nunez and Erling Haaland?
It's a hard one.
Probably won't be the last time we're answering this question. I'm going to go for Erling Haaland, and I think that's purely because I think he'll play more games. I think if Nunez signs, he might play, I'm going to say start half the season for Liverpool, maybe. So that's why I've got to go for Haaland.
Nadim, is there a potential of Alvarez and Haaland to start together at some point? Maybe in some sort of 3-5-2 with wide bombing fullbacks?
There's always potential, but yeah, I can't see Pep playing a 3-5-2 with bombing fullbacks. There might be some system that is attacking, but he's not really favoured that one that much. But I think it would be good to see Alvarez get the chance to play, because he's almost like the forgotten man because he was signed so long ago. Whereas everything's Haaland. I think there's going to be a lot of competition for places up there. But we'll see how they do. And the fact is, they didn't sign him just for 1 year, so maybe they're playing a long game with them.
Craig, with Manchester City and Liverpool making high-rated signings already, who should Chelsea sign that you would think would take them to the levels that City and Liverpool are at now?
Oh, holy smokes. Well, they missed out on Haaland.
Yeah.
They might have to... Well, if you want to get to their levels, it's not one player. Right, they've just lost... Who did they lose?
Rudiger Christensen's gone, yeah. Alonso looks like he's going to leave.
Alonso. Chilwell's coming back from injury, but they'll need a replacement. They'll need to beef out the squad. Reece James is going to be in that position for a while.
Right.
Because
Thiago Silva's old as well, isn't he?
Thiago Silva's... Rudiger's gone and Thiago Silva's ageing. Reece James is going to be a brilliant player, so that's I mean, you're talking about
Everyone but Reece
I was
James.
about to say, it's a side 10 win.
No, you're talking about, N'Golo Kante has to get back to the player he was a couple of years ago. He lost his way a little bit, had some injuries. But if you're looking short term, the only way to do it is short term. If you're asking me, we'd have to bring in people of the ilk of Lewandowski up front,
Right.
and then bolster the other positions and hope that he's going to get his 35, 40 goals a year, which in the Premier League would be pretty difficult. But it's the only way you would get even a sniff of closing that gap.
Are they third favourites though still?
Do you know? I'm not sure they are, because it depends what the new ownership do. They've lost all those players defensively. The Lukaku situation rumbles on. We talked about it in yesterday's show. Chelsea fans seem to get quite upset about it, some of them. Kai Havertz. Tell me, is anybody trusting Lukaku, Havertz, Werner, Ziyech, Pulisic?
No.
Is anybody trusting them to share all the goals around and get enough of them to put Chelsea in a good position? I don't think they are. That's a problem.
For Craig, will Frankie de Jong solve Manchester United's midfield problems?
No, not one
Not by
player.
himself.
Because McTominay's just a big, strong up and downer. Matic is gone. Pogba's gone. I'm not Fred's biggest fan, I have to tell you. So no, that's just one player. One player's not solving that whole problem, no.
Shaka, do you think the Italian players...
Oh, did you see Juan Mata's video, by the way?
No, I didn't.
No.
Everyone says really nice things about Juan Mata.
Yeah, he seems like a lovely...
Seems like everyone says
I must
nice
say, he
things.
seems like a lovely chap.
Yeah.
However, he put this video, and it was such a nice video, but I'm leaving.
Right. So why bring it up?
Well, because
I feel there's an edge.
there is always something. It's a beautiful video, and somebody's obviously professionally edited it for him.
Okay.
Right? Great. I can't remember. It's a couple of minutes long. Just thanking Man United, blah blah blah.
What a lovely gesture.
But
Frank.
I know, but I'm just like, can't we just leave now?
Right. But it doesn't hurt, does it? It doesn't hurt doing a nice video to say thank you. What's the problem?
It's like these videos.
It's a lovely gesture.
Get on the bus and go. Airport, Bosch, flight, tickets.
Somehow I doubt he's taking the bus to the airport.
And I don't think he's flying like that.
We know people. Listen, we know people that send family to the bus in an airport, to an airport on a bus. No, but it was a lovely, lovely thing.
Right.
But it's like Antoine Griezmann with that stupid message when he signed for
Oh,
Barca.
that's different though, isn't it?
And Juan Mata.
That's a nice
Beautiful
goodbye.
as it was, just go.
Right.
I mean, just go.
But look at Kevin Noble. That was a nice gesture, wasn't it?
Who? What?
Kevin Noble when he left West Ham. Nice scenes there, saying goodbye, tears and everything.
Mark Noble.
Mark Noble.
Who's
Noble.
I always call him
Kevin?
Kevin Noble.
When you said Kevin Noble, so when you said Kevin Noble, I was thinking.
Snipes? I thought it was
I
Wesley
was
Snipes.
thinking about Kevin Nolan.
That's I always say.
No,
Kevin
no, but
Noble.
it just so happened West Ham were playing at the end of the season at home, and it just so happens Mark Noble has played a gazillion games
Right.
for West Ham.
But in your world,
they've
in your
been-
world, he shouldn't. There
and
should be
they've been-
nothing.
And they've been his only club. No, that's wrong. That's wrong.
So now there's kind of
Well, I just think it's.
There's rules.
there's rules.
There's rules.
One club.
There's unwritten rules. Get on the bus and sod off.
Nadim, did you do a goodbye video to the QPR fans who loved you so dear?
No, they kind of booed me out the stadium, so I didn't need to. But I get it. Yeah, it's fair
They
enough.
put him on the bus.
Life goes on.
They give him a bus pass.
Yeah. Exactly.
I suppose that's just the way it is now, isn't it?
But that's not a bad thing. That's nothing to really be.
I'm not angry about it.
Well, you seem a little.
I'm bored.
You're bored of the videos.
I'm bored. Saturday. The season's finished. I'm taking 6 weeks off. Have you heard?
Did you answer the question, Shaq?
Sorry.
No.
Did you not?
You didn't get a chance to
Let me
ask
go
it.
to the
I'm
question.
taking 6 weeks off.
Do you think the Italian players?
I've just not told you.
Give up their 2020 Euro trophy to send us a video. Send us a video.
Right, hold on. I'm going to go and make a video in the corner about how much time I'm taking off,
Right.
and how much I love the Nations League. All right.
Shaka, if you're Italian, would you hand in your Euro winners to play in the World Cup?
No.
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 Hold on.
Well,
What kind of stupid things I had to say?
Well, it's just a question.
Yeah, but I know, but it's stupid.
Right,
Why would you
okay.
hand something back that you've had success? Why have you?
Well,
why would
because then
hand-
you're
No,
cashing.
wait. Why would you hand something back that you've fought so hard to win?
Because you might win the World Cup. And that's
Well,
better.
you're not going to win the World Cup. You're not.
Why not?
You don't hand back success
Oh.
for what might be. Right? You've worked hard for that. Video incoming.
Shaka, what was
We'll
your
do a video tonight.
What was your reaction when you and your team qualified for the
If you were to
2006
leave here-
World Cup?
If you were to leave here, I don't mean today,
Right.
I mean as a generalisation,
Yes.
would you do a video?
No, I wouldn't do a video.
Well, there you go. See, you're contradicting yourself.
What are you going to do? Thank you to ESPN. It's been great. Right.
Some would.
I go back to Ladbrokes.
I know people that would.
Yeah, I would do it just to get
I'm going to take the bus now. I'm writing this from the bus. That was lovely.
Shaka, when you qualified for the World Cup, what did you do?
What do you mean? Right after?
Yes, did you have a party? What was your reaction? How was the experience?
I was on the bench. I
Right?
didn't do anything. I just ran on the field.
How could you win the bench for your country?
I was on the bench.
Standard the goalkeeper that you were.
Kelvin Jack was the starting keeper, and he was good. Played really well for us.
No, I didn't win him.
I'm just saying. So I was on the bench.
And was it a big party?
So you,
No.
but you were
No.
then when you got to the World Cup.
No, there's no party at
When
all.
you got to the World Cup, you played though, didn't you?
Yeah, because he was injured.
Right, moving on, we've got a lot of questions still to go. Nadem, during your playing days, were there any sports persons outside of football that inspired you?
I'd probably have to say Tiger Woods. Like, he's basically the only reason I actually play golf to this day. Like, for how good he was, how good he still kind of is. You know, he's iconic, and seeing that level of domination, like, and just being the best in the world at something in the way he was, like, he was the guy for sure.
Shaq?
Muhammad Ali. That's all I got.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah.
You?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, look up. You?
Oh, I'm not inspired by anyone. I don't need inspiration.
Nigel Mansell. Bjorn Borg. Buster Mottram. Jeff Capes.
Jeff Gates.
World's strongest man. I aspired for that. Failed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just all British sportsmen in the 80s.
Well, that's what Steve Davis.
Steve
Solid
Davis,
Snooker.
Duncan Goodhue, the whole everyone.
Nah, I didn't like the Olympics. Alan Wells.
Okay. They're all on Wikipedia. Look them up.
All right.
Okay, Shaka, what's going to happen to the algorithm now that there's no club football?
That's a reset.
Yep.
So-
Shaka, are you going to try and offload them to Don, or are they still going to be your?
Don would take them.
No, Don can't handle that.
No, he'd take them.
That level of data
Don will
input.
he'll take everything going his way, he'll take it on.
Yeah.
You know he'll take it, don't you?
Yeah.
Oh, he's welcome to it.
I mean, yeah,
Shaka, come on, you're going to have to.
It's a lot of work. It's hard
he's
work.
been, I think he's been,
It's very technical and scientific. It
I
is.
don't want to be the one to tell you this, but I feel that I'm going to have to say something.
Right.
I think Don has been pitching behind your back
For the power rankings.
for the power ranking.
Has he?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a big concern, bearing in mind
Yes.
that's pretty much all you do here.
Oh my God.
I don't want you to lose it. Because your negotiating strength is just gone off the back of that. So just beware, Don.
Keep holding. International power rankings, Shaq.
Yeah, just,
Yeah, there you go. Bring that to the
I haven't
table.
denied it.
Final question for Craig.
Yes.
Do you see yourself publishing a book in the future
I've
like
been asked.
other panel experts? You have?
many times a long time ago, but it would be too controversial.
Right, but you
I
don't,
wouldn't
mind,
do-
you don't mind controversy.
Yeah, but I don't want to go down that road.
No?
I don't mind doing an opinion, but I don't want to go through all my teammates and all that, and because what happened.
Right.
I don't want to do that.
No.
So it doesn't have to be about your teammates.
Could
It could be about some of
I
your
haven't got time.
some of your
Like your
meditations.
sporting heroes that inspired you.
Yeah, 1980s sporting.
There you go.
What?
So it could be about your general thinking.
I'll be honest, I'm not
Your
a great-
meditations.
I'm not a great reader of books personally myself,
Right.
and I'm not super interested in them. It's
Okay.
like Stevie's book. My old boy told me it was fantastic. He loved it, and he
It's a
loved
good
reading
book.
it when he came over, and he loved
Yeah.
reading it. I wouldn't even have lit the fire with it, to be honest with you.
Right.
But that's just me.
Yes.
Other people like those things.
Yes, yeah.
Yes,
Nadem's book is still available, Nadem, and there's still copies.
And you
around?
can light your fire with that one.
No, I wouldn't.
One or two.
Nathan, what's your book
Simpson,
about?
Take as many as you need.
What is the premise, Nathan?
It's about my life, my career, places I've been, things that I've seen, eras at City and places like that. It's actually believe it or not, it's actually quite interesting. But worst comes to worst, if you need to light your fire this winter, as long as you pay the money, I'm more than happy for you to do so.
I always need my fire to be lit.
Yeah.
I bought a book recently, actually. I don't know why I did it. I pre-ordered it.
Okay.
From a guy who used to work here at this company. He's a golf writer, and he's written a book about Tiger and Phil.
Right.
And their relationship over the years. And apparently it's quite interesting. It's sitting on my bedside table, and I just can't bring myself to pick it up and read it.
Well, on your holiday, 6-week holiday.
Do you know why? Because normally by that time I'm
sleepy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, and I go, I'm going to read this book.
Yeah.
Gone.
Shaq.
Holiday? 6 weeks, you said?
There you
Okay.
go. There you go. You can read the book there. Shaq? Anyone? People must approach you for a book.
No, nobody's approached me for a book.
Right.
I don't rule it out entirely.
Okay.
Let's just leave it at that.
Hey, that'd be good.
The mayor of Newcastle, he's got a... You're the mayor of Newcastle, aren't you?
Where's this going?
No, but that'd be interesting.
That's what I should call my book. Is that what you're
101
saying?
Great Holidays.
Says the man who's going away for 6 weeks.
I'm not.
That'll be it.
Please go.
You're both
Please
off
go
the-
away for 6 weeks.
Oh no, you're here tomorrow.
I'm here tomorrow.
You're here with Stevie tomorrow.
He's just had the bad news.
Nadim, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Craig, enjoy yourself.
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Ah,
I'm not back. I just thought I'd say Tuesday.
We'll all be back tomorrow. Apart from Craig.